Live from Rockville, it's Wednesday night. Welcome to the 5th episode of the HiFi Five. I'm Ron Resnick, your moderator. Tonight we have two regulars reporting from Capital Audiofest. Kaey of Sonic Flare and EMMLabs, and Elliot Goldman, the G-Man from Bending Wave USA. Jay Caceres of Jay's Audio Lab is managing the forward operating base outside of Houston, and I'm at the HiFi Five headquarters in Beverly Hills. Welcome, gentlemen.
What's up?
Glad to be back.
First question.
Wait a second, Ron. Hold on. Has it already been a week?
It's been a week.
Good Lord. Time flies. What happened to all this time? I feel like I'm in a time warp.
If you like this video, don't forget to click like and subscribe to the channel. We need your support as a subscriber to generate this content for you.
Yep.
Danny, we're not going to go into the importance of the passage of time, are we?
I'm not seeing Jay.
It's
okay.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
There we go. Okay. Question number one. What do you like about Capital Audio Fest as compared to other audio shows?
Let's dive right into it, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, I can take that.
Okay, go ahead.
I can say that from all the shows, it has a good balance in terms of the crowd and the attendance, where you're still able to see all the rooms, enjoy them, and not feel like you still have 10 floors to go as you do with Expona, right? So I love that about Capital Audio. I think the city is pretty calm, pretty good, good places to eat. The rooms are not bad. I wouldn't say they're the greatest, but they're certainly not bad rooms. And I think that it's a very low-key environment, if that makes sense. So if you're looking for like a show where you don't have to be running around hauling ass throughout the show, or else you miss a lot, I think Capital Audio is good for that. But I do expect for the Dallas show to trump it eventually.
Elliot Ness?
Well, I've never done the Dallas show, but of all the shows that I've done, we have the best room here that we have in any of the shows. And I agree with Jay. The crowd here is, kind of friendly and relaxed. It's a relatively easy place to get around. There's not a lot of craziness in a bad way that there is in some places. Expona's a great show, but has terrible rooms. I just think this is, a really good mix. Of course, the rooms upstairs at any show, which are sleeping rooms, are kind of the same in every hotel. But there is a good, 20 rooms or 25 large rooms here, most of which are pretty good. And it's affordable.
So I'm the freshman here, total newbie to Capital Audio Fest. I've intended to go many, many years, never made it. And this is going to be my very first Capital Audio Fest. The only thing I can add to what Jay and Elliot have said is that their comments mirror what I've been hearing from friends and people that have gone, that have reported back to me. It seems to be a very sort of, low-key show where, to everyone's point, you can really kind of relax and enjoy some music. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what it's actually going to be like. I do agree with Elliot that we have, from what I can tell at least, we have really one of the best rooms at the show, and the system is going to kick ass. And so I think we're going to have a good time.
I've been to the show 4 times, and I really like it because it's just a very nice medium-sized show. It's big enough that you get flagship systems, but it's not so big that it's very difficult to, manage like Exponent. Question number 2. What's the point of audio shows in this day and age? And specifically, how should a hobbyist use attendance at an audio show most productively for him or her as a hobbyist?
I would say that, okay, go ahead, Danny.
No, please. You started.
For me personally, I think it's number one is to finally get a chance to see some of the equipment that you only see in magazines or my YouTube channel or the internet in general. So you get to see equipment that you probably wouldn't see under one roof. So that's a plus. I also think that it's a great place to, if you're shopping for music, for example, and you want to buy different records that you're probably not going to find out and about or where you live, that's a good place for that. But I would say the main thing is the takeaways, right? The takeaways being one, um, you are locating diamonds in the rough. I would say to me, that should be the biggest takeaway is what really draws you in, what's interesting to you. That's the first reference point, meaning you get to hear a system that's not, let's face it, not 100% due to the rooms, due to the power, and all the noise in the conversations in the hallway. But I think you get a really good feeling for those systems that might pique your interest. Step number two would be for you to go to your dealer and obviously audition it in a controlled environment. But I don't think audio shows, if I'm going to be frank here, I don't think audio shows are a good representation of what is possible with any of these components in your own space.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. I think that you can even wind the clock back even further, to let's kind of start with the basic of what is the point of an audio show, or what was the point of an audio show. And so if you look back historically, it was obviously long before the internet, long before these myriad of places where you can experience all this equipment have popped up. And it was a way for manufacturers to connect with an audience on a large scale, in a controlled environment over a 2-3 day period. Well, guess what? Those days are long gone. So with dealers focusing much more heavily on exclusive small events in their location, manufacturers helping those dealers create those events and or supplanting them with even more exclusive events on their own in partnership with the dealer. The general, obviously, availability of 24/7 internet and the news cycle that comes with it. I mean, you can launch a product today at 3 a.m. Shanghai time if you want, no problem. So, and you'll get a far bigger audience than you could possibly get in an audio show. You're not going to get any of the riffraff that comes with every type of show, whatever the industry is. And, the cost factor, let's look at the cost factor. I mean, this costs a bundle to do. And, I just, in 2025, as we're looking into 2026, I just don't know what the ROI on these shows is. It seems to be everyone loves them because it's like a happy merry-go-around, kumbaya. We all get together, say hi to our friends at someone else's expense, bluntly put. Anyway, okay. I don't know.
Elliot?
I think there are first two distinct questions. I mean, for a person coming to the show, I think if the person uses the show in a simple way, that it might be effective. I agree with Jay. It's a good place to get an idea of what's in the marketplace, to look at it. And since most people are visually attracted, I think that the buildup for these shows, that people are going to come and everything is going to be great and everything is going to sound great, is really a bunch of nonsense. And the use of the shows as a marketing device, because the press is here and that we're going to show off for the press so that the press will give us an attaboy and a bested show, I think is nonsense. And that's where this return of investment really falls apart. I think the real crime of all of this, or the real problem with this, is that who is the show really for? I don't think they're really for the consumers, okay? It seems to me that us as a distributor or a dealer or a manufacturer, we're investing all our time and all our money and we get very little back for it. Okay. To be honest with you, building a product for the reviewers, in my opinion, is a bunch of hogwash. Okay. To build a product for the one guy that's never going to buy it doesn't interest me at all.
Okay,
I
so let
think
me ask
the
you.
mistake that they make at audio shows is not using it as a forum for educating people on what to do, how to do it, okay? How to make your system sound good, what you need to do. And unfortunately for a dealer or a distributor, I mean, honestly, I'm going to have $750,000 worth of equipment that we get in a room tomorrow morning around 9, 10 o'clock. And by 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow night, everything's got to be built and cleaned and set up and hooked up and plugged in. And then people assume this is perfect, and it won't be.
So let me ask you, Elliot. So since you're talking, I want to debate that with you a little bit before we. I don't want to interrupt Ron's train of thought here, but if you have already determined that, and I'm sure this is not a conclusion that you arrived today or yesterday, you've had this sentiment about shows. You actually have been very vocal in the past about how you feel when it comes to audio shows. Why the hell are you there? Why are you at Capital Audiofest? If you feel this way, why are you continuing to bleed money on these shows instead
Well,
of
I'm going to
putting
be.
the money in your
I'm
account,
not.
in your store?
I asked me to participate, and I had my terms for participating. One of which is I'm not paying for the show. I'm paying for me, okay? And I want to help my vendors, and I want to participate. But as I said to you before, the days of Bending Wave doing a show by itself are done, over. Never do it again. Okay. My business partner, wanted to do the show. They work with me in the store. When somebody asks you to do something for them and you think it could be a positive thing, you do it. Are my expectations high? No, they're very low. I would love to be wrong, Jay. I would love for these to do the show and there be some increase in business for either me or or Pink Fawn, whoever's going to do it. But if you're asking me if that's my expectation, no. Am I going to try my hardest? Yes. Am I going to do what I always do and play great music and have a good time? Yes. But do I think the shows are worth the money, particularly the amount of them? No, I don't.
Okay.
Do you guys agree with the often stated view that if you go to an exhibit room at a show and it doesn't sound great, that's not very informative? But that if you go to an exhibit room at a show, and we know it's difficult to set up these complicated systems in a very short period of time, if you go to an exhibit at a show and it sounds great, that may have meaning. What do you think about that view?
I mean, it's got it has meaning to me in so much as it would have meaning to me to go visit Jay's system at home or in his new showroom whenever it's ready, and me either liking it or hey, this just this is not my kind of music or sound that you're producing, and any other number of people that I go visit or dealers that I go visit where I could feel the same way. So, I mean, I think the bigger question is how much should you put into believing or accepting, for lack of a better word, when someone says, "Hey, man, this room sounds amazing." What does that mean? Like, in what context does that sound amazing? In the context of the gear, in the context of the music that was playing, in the context of the room that was playing. To give you an example, I mean, I've been at this now for 25 years. My very first hi-fi show I went to was CES 2001 with Positive Feedback. And I was like a kid in a candy store. Right? Oh my gosh, Alexis Park. Holy crap. Look at all these toys. Look at everything sounds amazing. Right? And then, 25 years later, I suppose you could make the point, A, I got a little jaded, fine, fair, or I got more realistic in my assessment of what something sounds like in a show environment. versus elsewhere that I've heard these components?
Well, of course, Danny. I mean, as a young person, like, I don't know if you have children, but when you have kids and they grow up on certain thing and all of a sudden you take them to their first great, I'll use the word restaurant for argument's sake, and they went from chicken fingers and SpaghettiOs to having a good steak in a restaurant. It doesn't matter whether it's the best restaurant or a good restaurant or an average restaurant. To them, it's the best. What I find at audio shows, and this is my thing, and I like to stand outside the rooms, because if I get 100 people in my room, and these are approximations, obviously not exact figures, probably 50 to 60% of the people walk around the room, look around, and never sit down and leave. And then some percentage of the 40 people left will perhaps sit down, maybe stand in the back and listen to a minute or two. And then out of that, maybe 10 people sit down. And out of that, maybe 2 or 3 will stay more than 15 or 20 minutes and listen. That's all fine. Stand outside and listen to the comments, and the comments are crazy. Guy walks in for 3 seconds, will go, "That's the best room I ever heard," or "That's the worst room I've ever heard." And then at the end of the show, and I'm going to use this example because Jay is here and he can back me up. We were in Munich 2 years ago, and I ran into him at the show, and I dragged him over to one of the distributors' rooms in one of the forums that had the same speakers that Jay had in his house, the Wilson XVXs. And they had this full schnuck to the floor, D'Agostino, DCS, transparent, the whole thing there. Okay. What did it sound like, Jay?
Not good.
Okay. I mean, it sounded like a big, giant freaking boombox. It was awful. Okay. And that's okay. It's a show. I'm not castigating any of those companies. It's a show. I know how hard it is, and I know how the bad rooms are. Yet when I read the reviews of the show, some of the most
don't get me
important
started with
reviewers from the biggest magazines, who I won't mention, whose offices are in New Mexico, said it was one of the highlights of the show.
I think it's called
Really?
Stereophile.
Jay,
No.
you were shaking your head a little bit when Danny was speaking before. Did you have a comment before?
No, hold on, Elliot. You were talking about Robert Harley. Okay, I get it. I understand that. You can be open about it. I mean,
Okay.
this is the reason why we created the show.
How can something be the best and the worst at the same time? Okay. My point is, I wish the shows did more to educate people in just the basics of stuff. And I wish that they stopped putting such importance on getting a pat on the back by a reviewer when, to be honest with you, okay, and anyone who hasn't done it, okay, particularly some of the people on the forum, I challenge them to rent a room one time and bring a system down there and make it sound good in the 8 hours that you have.
It's huge. I've done it once now. It's hugely stressful. It's a big effing project, and it's expensive, and it's a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
Well, I mean, but go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, but then that goes, what everything Elliot just said goes right back to my earlier point, which is how much credence do people really put into someone saying, "Hey, this room sounds amazing," or "This room sounds crappy, forget it." I mean, I've heard it a million times. I've said it myself a million times to friends or passersby or whatever.
Okay.
And,
Dan, I want to interrupt you 1 second. Do you think a lot of people have a preconceived notion when they walk in the room before they ever hear the music?
I think that there is some of that. If you're a Wilson hater and you're about to walk into a Wilson room, more than likely you're going to walk out feeling the same. It's not going to change your perspective. So
Probably.
we do have preconceived ideas of what a system should sound like, not ever given an opportunity perhaps for new product from said manufacturers to actually impress you. You're completely closed off to that, which I think is a huge mistake.
I think
let alone let's talk about audio tourism too, which is another topic that Elliot is very blunt about, right? Those that are just hanging out because the wife is at the mall shopping, none of them are actually interested in buying any of this. So there's
Jay,
also that side of things.
I describe it as brand partisanship.
And frankly, let's put that into the circle too. Just how many people actually that are capable of buying the stuff that they're listening to actually end up buying the stuff that they heard at the show?
I think that has to do with several things. One is what kind of deal can they get? Because let's face it, there are backdoor sales at shows. I mean, no one is talking about it. There are many backdoor sales at shows. We
Sure.
know it. I'm not going to call out brands or dealers, but we know this is happening. Okay, people loading up stuff. They're getting rid of all their demos, all the equipment that they basically transported to the venue. They don't want to transport it back, and if they can offload it there and collect some money, it's a lot easier because you don't have to ship it back home. So there is a lot of that. So there is a lot of opportunity for those people that are looking to buy used hi-fi or demo pieces with warranty. Because remember, this comes usually from the brands themselves, from those, or even dealers. So it comes with a warranty.
So maybe the pivot should be, I mean, you know, since that's the case, and I know that that's the case as well, by the way. What if some of these shows flat out announce, we're a sales show, bring your cash, we'll wheel and deal with you, and walk out with a system? I mean, why not?
But it's very rare that you're going to have someone walk in, listen to a system, and cut the check and go home.
No,
it's
but
very rare.
But we just
At a
said that
show.
it happens more than we recognize it happens.
It's no, I'm saying that I'm talking about two different things. I'm talking about people that are going to shows to score deals, and
Right.
dealers that are desperate to basically, get cash for
Correct.
the equipment. And then there's another person that actually sits, listens, and is really interested in the equipment and buys it for perhaps a slight discount, right? But is actually there, was impressed, and told the dealer, here's the check, send it to me, or I want to order that. And that it's rare, but I think that can probably still happen, although not as often as we think. And then
probably
audio
would happen
tourism.
with you, that people go to a show and see something and then buy used stuff from you.
Yeah, that
I'm
happens.
Don't get me wrong. Don't get it
No,
twisted.
listen.
I know what his business is, and I don't
Yeah.
begrudge his business,
Hell
but
no.
there's too much of that stuff that goes around too, and it hurts. It hurts.
It hurts, and unfortunately, the internet and social media has made it harder for dealers and brands as a whole. Meaning, as long as you have YouTubers or great social media presence, you can pretty much sell just about anything. Just about anything.
Agreed.
And dealers are not being proactive about creating a presence, a social media presence. They are still sitting next to the phone, expecting for a phone call to happen so they can actually take an order down and order product. By the time you pick up that phone, I've already sold 10 pieces, and you're still waiting for your phone call. That's how it is.
Do we have too many audio shows in the US?
Oh God, yes.
Yes.
How many do you need?
Yes.
Are there 10 of them now? Are there 10?
So, Elliot, out of the bunch of shows,
Ron, what'd you push?
nothing.
No, it was Elliot. He got out somehow. He probably pushed something. I can take the question while we wait for Elliot. I would say yes. We have too many shows.
I can't hear Jay.
We hear you fine.
You have to get in and out, Elliot, probably. Get out
We
and go
lost your
back in,
video,
click the
Elliot.
link again, and then Ron will let you
I can't hear Jay or
back
Danny.
in. So what I'm saying is, as far as shows, I think that, look, we start in February with the Florida show. Then we go to what used to be the Dallas show. Now it's got moved to July. So March, I don't think there's anything going on. You got April, Expona. You got May, which is back in Europe. Or used to be Munich. Now it's going to be Vienna, right? And then June, nothing. July, Dallas, which I'll be there. And so the first 6 months out of the year, you have shows back to back. Like, it's really difficult.
Jay, if you could keep 3 shows in the US, which would you keep? Okay.
Technical difficulties.
There you go. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, see you now,
Yes.
but we're not
So,
seeing Danny or Elliot.
okay, so
You're not? I'm right here.
I am going to continue to talk then while you figure out those difficulties. Hopefully the audience can hear me. So yeah,
Yes.
there are too many shows, guys. There's no question about it. There's entirely too much going on, and I think it adds confusion. Plus, what are dealers supposed to be doing? What are dealers in reality supposed to do? Attend every show for the first 6 months out of the year? How much money are we talking here just in logistics, right? Just in transportation, just in all the risk associated with shipping gear and potential damage during shipment. We're talking 100K easily if you attend the first 3 to 4 shows. Easily for 100 grand. That's 100 grand, and if you think about it, the ROI for you to make that 100K back, you have to be praying. You have to be praying that you can make that money at some point. And 100 grand, it's not that easy to make selling hi-fi.
Very true.
I'm back.
We
You guys
still
see me,
don't have
hear me?
Elliot.
I hear you, but I don't see Ron.
Oh,
I don't hear Ron. Ron, I can't hear them. Hear him at
Ooh.
all. You can hear me though, Danny. You hear me, that Danny?
I hear you, yes.
So go ahead, talk. What do you think about shows? Do we have too many shows? What's your take?
Yes, I definitely think we have too many shows. I think that, again, in my, opinion, having been to these shows for 25 years, something needs to change. I like the concept and idea of having an education component to it. I like the concept of bringing an education component to it from other perspectives that are adjacent to the lovely hobby of audiophilia. Maybe have music presentations of some kind. I know shows are kind of doing that, but what I'm talking about is more like on the music education side of things.
Okay.
I think the shows getting smaller and more exclusive. And by more exclusive, I don't necessarily mean like high-end exclusivity. I mean, why does a show have to have 50 rooms or 500 rooms, right? Why not have a small show with, 2 or 3 suites with 20 manufacturers and some kind of a program running that explains hi-fi, educates around audio, educates you around the experience, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, there's no standard, right?
What's that?
There's absolutely no standard as far as what is it that we should be looking
Correct.
for when it comes to good sound. We don't really have a baseline, a standard. With video, for example, we do. You have all these calibration charts that tell you how much color, how much of everything, and that's considered whatever the THX standard for video. There is no such thing for audio, so it's open to interpretation.
Yeah, but I mean, there's baseline level data that I think those who study psychoacoustics and acoustics in general, there's a solid amount of data available that from which you can deduce, hey, this is going to sound crappy, this is going to sound great, because of all this data that we have collected over the last 60, 70 years of, playing back hi-fi music. So I don't want to, I wouldn't necessarily go, there's no baseline. I mean, I think there's definitely baselines. I just think that, it's difficult to cover those baselines when you have 50 rooms that you're sort of competing with on a noise level as far as trying to get attraction to that room, as opposed to having just 10 rooms or 5 rooms where you can actually make that happen.
Yep. All good. Okay, we're still waiting on Elliot, right?
Yeah, I just texted him. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Do you want to go to the fourth question, or you want to wait on him?
Let's go to the next question. So, viewers, this is a different
don't
substantive
hear.
question.
Do you guys hear Ron? I don't hear Ron.
Ron?
Jay, do you hear me?
I hear you. Yes, I hear you, Ron.
I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why, Danny.
I don't hear Ron.
I hear Ron. You got to
Elliot
refresh your
Engard?
browser, Ron. Danny. But I can take the question. What was? Go
Is
ahead.
that
Go ahead.
better
There's
now?
Elliot. Yes, perfect.
Yes.
We got you. Awesome. Okay, what was the question, Ron? Can you repeat?
Now
the
we
question
lost. Now we lost Danny. Oh, he went. The
Okay.
question is: should audiophiles build their systems around a single brand? So, for example, is it best if an audiophile picks a brand and buys that brand's preamplifier and amplifier and maybe phonostage preamplifier and amplifier? Or what are the pros and cons of mixing and matching different brands of components?
1,000,000%. In short, do not do what I do. Do not mix and match, which is what I do. This is why I call my room a lab. And I've said this to my ultra hi-fi members. Don't mix and match until you have first built a baseline. If you're using a Darzeel amp, use the matching preamplifier. Build that synergy first. Then if you want to venture out into an audio research Ref 10, if you want to venture out into a Boulder preamplifier or amplifier and mix and match, you at least understand your starting point. But if you don't have a starting point, you are never going to know if the mix and matching that you have done sounds better than what the manufacturer intended for the whole collection of components to do together. Not to mention, you don't understand the synergy from within. So I don't recommend mix and matching at first. Never do that with cables, never do that with components, period. Make sure you buy the matching components first before you venture out.
Elliot, what do you think?
I totally have said this a million times. I mean, particularly if you're not experienced, I think that you should buy an amp and preamp from one company, because you may not like it, but at least you know it works together properly. And you and I had this discussion the other day. I mean, I'm not into this Chinese takeout with cables, with one from column A and one from column B, and with 3 you get egg roll. I mean, I don't understand how, if you add 1,000 variables together, how can you figure out what's doing what? Okay. So if you're going to take, I don't want to mention any brands because people get angry when I mention brands, but if you take brand X, at least use the speaker wire and
Yep.
the interconnects to start with from the same company.
Yep.
Don't take a power cord from one and an interconnect from another and a different interconnect from a third and an Ethernet from a fourth and a speaker wire from a fifth, because at the end of this, you got bouillabaisse. I don't know what you got, okay? But if you don't like something, you have no idea what it's coming from. So if you take a system from brand A and you use all their stuff and it doesn't float your boat, then you say, okay, let me try brand B. Maybe that'll be better. But unfortunately, and people are not going to like this, the overwhelming majority of people that I meet with systems always have the same story. Well, I bought that because it was on sale at Joe's. And this one fell off a truck at Costco. And this one was on AudioGone. And Jay told me that this was the greatest thing. And he bought 50 of them. And I got it at 80% off. That's not how to buy a system. I'm sorry. Go buy a car like that and don't end up in a hospital.
That's funny.
Danny, your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts. Yeah, I mean, in general, I think, I mirror what everyone else is saying, which is, particularly as you're starting out, get a feel for the brand, get a feel for what it sounds like. And, after you're well versed with that sound, then start experimenting. And I would suggest start experimenting with loudspeakers before you start experimenting with hi-fi components. The simple reason being, you can much more dramatically impact the sound quality, the ultimate sound quality, what you're going to hear with the speakers that you're going to have in your room. So, play around, see what you like, what you're listening for. Search it out. There's many brands that produce a similar type of sound. But yeah, I'd stay away from mixing and matching. And one other thing that I would add to it, in the day and age of YouTubers and influencers, and every week there's a new video out, some new review component. Give me a break. I mean, seriously, okay, I cannot wholeheartedly buy into this notion that a single reviewer is capable of listening to a component, spitting out a video week after week after week, having compared that component to the component that was just in there 2 weeks ago, and then describing the sound to me, and I'm supposed to buy into his explanation of that's what he's hearing. I just don't buy it. I mean, there's so much psychoacoustic stuff going on, the placebo effect, memory effect, on and on and on, for me to sit there and believe that whatever video that's being pumped out this week, I can reliably deduce that that's what the actual sound of the component is, which is sort of tied to that whole notion of, mix and match and play around and all that stuff. So anyway, that's why I don't do that many videos. People are, hey, why don't you review more stuff? I'm like, A, I don't want to. B, there's only so much memory that I can produce and recover from components that are coming in and out of my system.
Okay, so I actually have a different view than you guys. Think of it this way. I think there's a presumption that it's good to start with the same brand of phono, line stage, amplifier, for the very specific reason that you can be confident you're not going to have a impedance mismatch anywhere in that chain.
Yep.
And you're not going to have a gain structure mismatch anywhere in that chain. So I think that's the presumption, but I personally consider the presumption rebuttable. If you go to a dealer and you can hear different combinations of components, maybe you go to a D'Agostino, carries D'Agostino and carries Burmester, and you can mix and match and hear in situ in that same system different components. I think that can be okay. So if somebody is a hobbyist, wants to enjoy mixing and matching, that's fine. But if you mix and match, you really do have to know what you're doing in terms of not screwing up gain structure consistency and impedance matching. And unfortunately, a lot of audiophiles don't know what they're doing.
Well, you're not disagreeing. You're just saying what we did. If you're smart enough, or that's a bad word, if you're experienced enough that you can do that, that's fine. I mean, look, there are exceptions. I saw a comment that somebody said, well, they met me at a show and they bought something. Mazel tov, that's great. That doesn't make 20 shows worth the money of the investment, okay? And if you're experienced and you think you know what you're doing, or you know what you're doing, and you want to put a, preamp X with amplifier Y, that's fine. Do I advise that for people getting started? No. Do I think people that stick to one brand generally have a better result? Absolutely, they do.
Oh, great points. We got a couple of questions. If you want to look at the questions now, Ron, unless we have anything else.
Yeah, which ones do you like?
Someone's asking, EMMLabs is asking, in my experience or anyone's experience, do speakers tend to stay in a system the longest?
Good question. The question from EMMLabs, from Amadeus probably. In your experience, do speakers tend to stay in the system the longest?
Probably. At least for me, they have been.
Go ahead, Elliot.
In my opinion, I would say yes. Generally, speakers are the hardest thing to change. People get used to the way they look and the way they fit in the room. It's kind of traumatic to change speakers, to be honest. And especially if you have big ones, Generally, when people buy a high-end product, whatever we want to define it, that's different for everybody. But if you go out and you buy one of them, most people don't change them easily. I won't say they don't change them, but they don't. It's really easier to get some other gizmo or gadget or a wire or a box than changing a speaker.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm right there with Elliot. I think that speakers are the bulkiest, the biggest, or can be the biggest, certainly. I mean, unless you're looking at bookshelves and such. But again, my personal experience has been that yes, I kind of tend to stick with speakers for a very long period of time. And I may move up and down in the brand because I like the sound, but historically, I've not changed speakers all that often.
Jay?
Yeah, for sure. I would say speakers for me as well. Typically because they're large as big as hell, usually the ones that I end up buying. So I don't want to be moving those around. And I think it's just besides the room, of course, the room being important, very important. The speaker tends to be the most important evaluation tool, in my opinion. So when you're listening to different components, you got to have that sound stuck in your head from that loudspeaker, and all speakers have a certain type of sound. If you change the speaker, you pretty much change everything behind, not knowing that you have, because if you go from a Wilson to a Magico, it's a completely different sound. So I do agree that I would say speakers tend to be the one component that stays in the longest for me.
Gary Leeds has a fun expression that I like. He says, selling a speaker is like selling somebody a house, where selling an amplifier is like selling a car. Much, much, much more difficult to sell somebody speakers.
Agreed. It's another question here about PassLabs amplifiers right there in California. Serge is the name of the guy here, the person.
Serge says, I'm very interested in Pass Gear, PassLabs 260.8. Any thoughts on the gear and the company?
I can give you a lot of feedback about PassLabs. I've been very, very brutal with them in the past, especially in my early days on YouTube. I can tell you PassLabs to me is probably the best American Japanese brand, if that makes sense. And the reason why I call it American Japanese is simply because it's bulletproof stuff, like Japanese stuff. It doesn't break. You can tie that in the back of my dually truck and drag it down the street and bring it back and it will turn on. That's PassLabs for you. And number two, their customer service is exceptional. One of the best brands to ever be close to is PassLabs. I actually called it, a lot of other brands should actually rip a page out of their book when it comes to customer service. They fix stuff that's out of warranty. I mean, to me, I'm still in shock that PassLabs is alive today because how far they go for the customer. Not charging oftentimes to repair gear that is way out of warranty. So, and as far sonically, it's a really good sounding brand. My biggest criticism, if I want to put a big knock on it, if I want to really be brutal again, I will say that the biggest problem that I see with PassLabs, they have stayed stagnant for too long. That point 0.8 series needs to go. It's time to release something. It's been in production for over a decade now. I know they have a brand new PassLabs XS amplifier flagship that came out. I think it's called the XS32. So it took a while for the former XS to be replaced. So I'm hoping that this is an indication that we're starting to see new product being slowly rolled out. But aside from that, I mean, I would have no problem retiring with a PassLabs product.
Michael Andrews asked a technical question. Explain impedance matching. Does upstream component have to be same or higher impedance? My understanding in very, very basic terms is you want a large divergence between the output impedance of the preamp and the input impedance of the amplifier. So for example, you want a large multiplier. You don't want the output impedance of the preamp to be similar to the input impedance of the amplifier. You want to 10 times, 20 times. You want a large divergence between those two. That's my limited understanding. Hopefully that's right.
It's a great question from Patrick Kelly there.
Pat asks, Do you generally see a correlation between price and sound quality? That's a biggie, Pat. Good evening.
I have to say it. Yes, I do. I hate to say it. And I know we can argue. If anybody has an argument here, I'm going to tell you, in my experience, unfortunately, and I'm not going to say 100% of the time, because that's stupidity. It's not 100% of the time. But for the most part, yes, the higher you go up in price, the better the performance. Although, again, not always the case.
My personal answer is there is a positive correlation, but it's a weak positive correlation.
Mhm.
A large, expensive product is somewhat more likely, maybe. Of course, the whole vintage world puts the kibosh on that because you can generate, for people who like vintage, a very good sounding system relatively inexpensively with vintage components. But so that's a whole separate world that sort of undermines the correlation. But I consider the correlation to be positive, but only weakly positive.
Put a U-Haul box over.
Hello?
Put
You
a
see-
U.
Hello?
You're
Yeah.
here. You're here. You
Elliot,
got
go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
We hear you. We hear you.
He probably doesn't hear us.
You
Okay, Danny, you want to answer the question, Danny?
Yeah, I was gonna say take 4 amplifiers of varying cost spectrums, put a U-Haul box over each one of them. I'm gonna play them for you, and I'm willing to bet that you're not gonna be able to guess the price point of what you're listening to.
Yeah, there's placebo involved, no question about it. There is definitely some of that.
I think there's a lot of that. I mean, I really do. I think, the old adage, we listen with our ears.
I can't hear you.
Should be supplanted with we listen with our eyes, right? No wonder some of these companies that are out there spend exorbitant amounts of money on face plates, on chassis that are made out of gold. Obviously not, but they might as well be. To impress the customer, to impress an audience that is very susceptible. Ron?
We hear you.
I can't hear anything.
We hear you. Okay. Refresh your browser.
We're all for
I actually like it like this. I'd like to answer the question, but I can't hear any of you.
Well, speak.
You can speak.
Speak.
Go ahead.
Okay. Do I generally think there's a correlation between price and sound quality? I've learned in my life that the best things are usually more expensive.
Uh-oh.
I don't know what it is today. Today has been a difficult day.
Today was difficult. Whee!
Today was difficult. Let me see if we have any other questions.
Yes, David Blumenstein asks, I'd like to know if there's a correlation between price and build quality. That's actually a pretty interesting question.
That's a question I have never really thought of, but I can say, for me, with hundreds of amplifiers specifically, I can say yes. Even the quality of the product, the materials, the way the remote feels, for example, for preamplifiers, the way, things are constructed, I do believe there, because remember, there is no real budget. When you're doing a cost no object product, there is no real budget. You can go as far as you want with that remote control. Instead of doing a plastic remote, you got an all aluminum remote. So there is definitely some of that as well. Boulder, perfect example.
Nothing.
Boulder is fantastic, right? Really well built product, but it's not cheap.
Yeah, but what if I get I get the CNC machines transported over to a very low cost labor market and produce it there for 1/10 of the price that Boulder charges, having to make their stuff in Boulder, Colorado.
Well,
You're going to end up with exactly the same product made by exactly the same machines,
I
but you're going to pay a tenth the price.
so then we could say this though. It depends in which part of the world this is built.
There's
Because the
always a
salaries at
qualifier.
Boulder, let me tell you, when I did that factory tour at Boulder, okay, it's a real business, man. Real blown operation there. You know, benefits, health insurance, all of that. You can't build something like that paying $10 an hour.
Of course not.
But you can do it in China.
Yep. Same as Wilson Audio. 55 employees. Everybody makes more than a living wage.
Yeah.
As Dave always famously said, and Daryl now, obviously.
Look, here's something I want to bring up, and I think the audience is really going to feel me on this, okay? Wilson Audio being one of the most criticized loudspeaker brands. Big time. Everyone knows that. Everyone criticizes Wilson Audio. Everyone. But I've owned 9 pairs of Wilson Audio speakers. Actually, make that 10, okay? And I'm going to tell you this, though. No matter how much, how much we harp on the whole entire conversation about them being, overpriced for what they are and all of this, let me say this to you. They're still the most iconic high-end loudspeaker manufacturer in America. I don't give a damn if no one watching agrees with me. There are many dealers right now that would love to have the brand because the business Wilson Audio generates for a dealer is real. Okay, and so when you look at Wilson Audio as a company, I believe they have like 60 something, maybe even 70 employees right now, right, in Utah, right, and everything that goes behind the scenes. Plus, let's not talk about the history of the brand, right, which in my opinion also drives the price up because you're buying a brand that has been around for a long time and successful at that. You buy a Wilson Audio product, you don't have to worry about Wilson closing shop next week like other brands that will go nameless. You don't have to be concerned with that. It's a solid investment. Not only that, in the secondhand market, I don't think there is a better selling loudspeaker brand today than Wilson Audio is. And I'm telling you, every time I had a Wilson Audio speaker, it didn't take me long to sell it in the secondhand market. I can't say that about every loudspeaker I've had.
I'd like to take that question. Correlation between build quality, and price. I think there's a very high correlation between build quality and price because the more money you throw at it, high quality machining, finishing, the Boulder stuff is stunning and equal to the best stuff there is, and it costs a lot of money. That's what you're getting. That's not my personal pet peeve. My issue is the concern about correlation between price and reliability. The higher the price, the lower the production volume. And in my experience, whether it's watches, cars, kit cars, custom fancy guns, high-end audio equipment, the more expensive, the more exotic, the more complicated, but the lower the production volume, the less reliable it is. And that's one of my issues.
Really? Explain. Do you have an example of what you're saying?
I don't want to talk about examples, but when somebody makes 20 or 50 of something, it tends to be more reliable than when they make one prototype that's sort of not properly tested, goes into the field, they sell 4 or 5 of them. That, I think, is less likely to, regardless of cost, to be as reliable as something they made 20 or 50 of.
Well, there's a perfect example. There's the I saw it on my Instagram feed, the new Goldman amp for $500,000 or however much it goes for. Was dead on arrival in this fancy Malibu home a week or 2 ago, and the guy from Goldman flew out with his technician or whatever, and rightfully so. I mean, that's what I would have expected them to, at the very least. But yeah, I mean, to your point, you just blew $500,000 on an amplifier and the thing's not working. I mean, look, shit happens all the time.
Okay, Danny, I was there, so I can talk in great detail about that.
Tell us.
The amplifier was not dead on arrival. There was a simple, honest mistake that this was the first pair of these amplifiers arriving in North America. And unfortunately, somebody just forgot to put in the 120 VAC rail fuse. Mm-hmm. So the amplifiers were turned on. The fuses just blew right away. That was not a product defect. That was simply an oversight on the fuse. And I posted on Facebook, not in my opinion, absolutely objectively, that was handled literally perfectly. The company didn't blame the customer. The company didn't blame the associated components. The company didn't blame the cables in the picture. The company said, okay, we're going to make sure you don't have to worry about that. We are sending our senior engineer overnight from Switzerland. We are sending a backup technician from Indiana. We are sending you the distributor, and we are sending you the dealer, and we are coming to your house in the next 48 hours, and we're not leaving until those things are working. So that is not a case of a defective design or inadequate testing. It was simply an innocent, they forgot to put in the right rail fuses for 120 volt.
Well, Ron, let me ask you though, and I like the way, because really it's about the service, right? It's really about the sale. How do they, and that goes to, in everything in life. Even if you buy from a dealer, it's not the fact that he sold you something. It's how he treats you after the sale, how he takes care of you. I agree with that. No question about it. The service, customer service that follows after the sale is just as important, if not more important, I dare to say. However, for $500,000, if that were to happen to any other brand in America and it got exposed, we will never hear the end of it. If that happened,
Well,
if
I think
Wilson Audio sent a speaker not working and it's $500,000, somebody's getting canned at Wilson Audio.
I'm just drawing a distinction between a product that was dead on arrival because of a defective design and inadequate testing versus not working because of something as unfortunate but innocuous as the wrong fuse.
I think
Okay.
that there is a correlation between price and build quality. Although you can build something really well at lower prices too. Look, I've been doing this 50 some odd years. Shit breaks. Okay. It happens. I don't care. But one of the problems that's come today is there's such a escalation in this race to build this expensive stuff. And there are companies that I don't want to name either that seem that they have to have a new product for every event and every show and every announcement. Okay. Without patting people on the back, and Wilson happens to be a good one. Okay. And there are other ones. These companies don't change their product every week. Okay. I think it's easier to build speakers in some regards without them breaking because there's not a lot of weird exotic technology. Okay. Fit and finish, of course, is really important, and packing is important. But there are companies that we know of that every show they have a new integrated amp and a new DAC and a new power conditioner and new wires and new speakers and new this. Well, if you're changing everything every 3 months, there is no scale, there is no consistency, and there really isn't any consistency of parts. Okay. So some companies don't change their product every week because they don't need to. Okay. The product is good enough that it will stand for itself for a long period of time. And that could be 5 years, 10 years, could be 20 years. I think that there is a pride in building something, a pride of finishing it, packing it, shipping it, and handling customer service that some companies have and others don't. And sometimes price, let me just finish, Danny. Sometimes price is, how far can we push the damn market that they'll still spend the money when the product really isn't worth it?
Just to add to that, two companies that come to mind. One is going to be Wilson Audio, and the other one, shameless self-promotion, EMMLabs. I personally know of several people that have bought used first, second, third generation Wilson Watt puppies, sent them to the factory to get them refinished, repaired, the drivers replaced, everything recalibrated according to factory spec. And for a relatively modest price, basically got a brand new pair of speakers back. And then the other company, again, shameless self-promotion, EMMLabs, I have to say, when you visit their headquarters in the factory, there's Musitex amps coming. That was Ed's first audio company. back in the 80s that are still working, or they're not working and they're being sent in for repair and service. They get serviced, they get repaired, and shipped back to the customer. Same thing with the EMMLabs gear. We just did a complete upgrade of XDS CD player from 20 years ago, and so I think those are things that when you look at it, I think that is something that speaks to the value of a company more than the latest and greatest, the shiniest faceplate, the prettiest remote, it's the value that that you're gonna get supported. For crying out loud, you're buying an amp for 50 grand, for 20 grand, let alone $500,000. You want to know you're gonna get supported, period.
Yep.
So kudos to those companies that do that well. Jay mentioned Pass Labs. There's obviously another one. So again, to me, those are the qualities of a company that I really look to, almost on equal footing, I would say, to what does it sound like? Where am I going to buy it? What does it look like? And so on and so forth, right? It's that longevity. It's knowing that it's almost like an heirloom device that, yes, shit's going to go wrong. It's electronics at the end of the day. What does the support structure look like in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years?
Yeah, there's no doubt. Wilson Audio is a completely class act, no doubt about it.
Yep.
I agree that I personally like the business model of companies who have long product cycles and are not trying to introduce some new thing every 2 years. Other companies, frankly, that come to mind, I have no business relationship with these companies. VTL has long product cycles. Aesthetics has long product cycles, and both of those companies will repair any product they've ever made. And I think there's value and comfort in that.
And Aesthetics is still in business?
Yes.
Patrick has a good question there.
Pat is asking, do different countries have generically different sounds?
Put it up in there. Put
I
it
don't
up,
think
the
so.
one above it.
Oh,
I don't think so.
I would say I disagree with Elliot. In my personal experience, I would say yes. Different countries or continents, whatever, they do sound different. Sound is different. And I'm going to give you perfect explanations at a high level. I'm not going to get very nuanced here. Usually American sound is very muscular. It has a lot of low end punch. It's got a lot of great lower octaves, right? Americans like bass. That's not a secret. For the most part, American sound is very bass heavy. Okay, when you go over to, let's say, Switzerland, and you're talking Solution, you're talking CH Precision, both of which I currently own, and I know Darziel is the same. It sounds very different. It's a lot more of it's a very clean, clear sound, but I don't want to call it delicate, but it gives you the impression of a very expensive luxury sound, if that makes sense. Sound that is not very native to American products. Boulder doesn't sound like that. D'Agostino may have a little bit of that, but not quite the same, again, as the Swiss brands do. All right. And then if we go over to Japan, we know what that sounds like. The Luxman brand, the AccuFace brand, it's a lot leaner sounding. It doesn't have a lot of dynamics. It's not product that's very immediate sounding.
In your
relaxed sound.
In your experience, do the Swiss companies CH, Solution, Darziel, do they, as a nationality, have less fulsome bass than the American companies in your experience?
I would say no. I would say that I have noticed.
Are you saying there's sonic racism?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is,
I think this is complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. I think you got to talk specific product for a specific company. To say that the Japanese, as a culture, design everything to sound different than the Swiss is just hokum. It's just
Yeah, I don't
hokum.
think. No,
American
let me tell
people
you
may
why.
prefer bass. That doesn't
No,
mean that
bullshit. I call that
I
bullshit,
don't
Elliot.
buy it at all.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. Because when the
Tell me
Japanese are
why.
sitting down,
Tell me why. Tell me why.
when the Japanese are sitting down designing their product, they don't give a shit about what the Swiss are doing, what the Americans are doing. They don't give a shit. So when these engineers or whoever it is that's building this, they audition this. They actually listen to the product. They are shooting for a certain characteristic of sound. Same thing with the Americans. Americans don't like lean sounding fucking equipment. It's not. I mean, I'm not saying everyone. I'm not going to generalize. Please don't hold me. Don't put a gun to my head. I'm not talking. This is like
So what
common.
you're telling me is these people don't listen to music. They go and go, hey guy, what kind of sounds you like? It's ridiculous. If you go to a
It's
concert hall, that should be your judge, not 7 Japanese guys on the street or 4 guys doing hip hop in Chicago.
well. I'm telling you that everything has a sound. Every product that we buy has a sound. No product sounds alike. There's
I'm
no
not saying
denying
that
in that.
I'm not saying that products don't sound different. I don't think it's by race or nationality or
No one's
geographic
talking
area.
about that.
You know what? The people in Florida, their sound is much more humid than those in Chicago.
No, but I mean, we're not talking specific to a country. I was just saying the Asian type of sound. It's a very different type of sound. I call it very euphonic. The Japanese sound tends to be very euphonic. That's the best word to describe it. Okay, it's got this hint, this tint on top of the sound that makes everything sound the same. Every song sounds the same. It puts a certain lipstick on the presentation. That's been my experience with a lot of
I'm
Japanese
not
products.
saying that you're wrong. I just can't categorize that as saying this is something the Japanese try to decide. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And the same thing with Swiss. Okay. I can't say that a CH and is Niagara Swiss
Yes.
and whatever it is, all sit there and go, oh, we need to make lean base. Let's all do it.
As I
This is
said,
Swiss
not
sound.
all.
We should
I'm
put
not
cheese
saying.
in there with holes because it
Remember what I
works.
said. I'm not going to say this is 100% across the board. I am saying there are certain attributes that every one of these brands share in common. Not everything, but certain attributes that they basically
I'm
do the
sorry, I don't
same.
agree. I find it
See,
offensive that you're saying
I
that.
can tell you right now, CH Precision and Solution have a lot in common. I own both. I have them here.
I've listened to both also.
No. Listen to both is not the same as owning both. There's a
I was
difference.
a CH dealer for 4 years, and I've taken a
Listening.
bunch of solution in trade. Okay, and the
You
new
didn't listen.
solution, without getting into it, I don't think that you can say that because Boulder is made in America, it's got bigger boobs than CH, which is made in Switzerland. This is a guy designing in Colorado, whatever it is, and a guy designing in Switzerland. And it has to do with they go to listen to music, and this is what they're doing. I don't think it has anything to do with the language, where they were born, or whatever it is. I just don't think that. You can say that it happens, and maybe it does, but I don't believe it's by nationality.
All right.
Okay. Any final comments, gentlemen? We're running long here.
Well, it's fun. Fun sitting here and not being able to listen for half an hour.
Any other comments? You see any other comments we should take?
No, nothing. It pretty much died off.
Okay, guys. Well, Danny and Elliot have a wonderful show, and we will see you next week. Don't forget to like this channel, like the video, like the channel. We need your support to keep doing this content. Hopefully you're enjoying it. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Later. All right, guys. I got to head down.